going on, everybody? Welcome back to Solar Systems, where we help you understand the system your soul goes into. This is Moon Days and Michael. I'm your host, Large Angle Michael, and I am cutting out the esoteric middleman and giving you the tools you need to connect yourself right to the source. Now, welcome back to the series known as Bible Study that I haven't filmed a video for in a year. I don't know, whatever. Date's not important. If you do not understand what the series is talking about, we're basically going through certain passages and stories in the Bible and actually breaking it down so you can actually extract the truth out of it rather than being led astray and rocked to sleep by whatever intentions, ideas, motivations, and desires from another being that wanted you to follow them so you don't do the things for yourself. Which actually has to relate to today's video, which is talking about the story of Cain and Abel. You know, the two brothers, the one that, God favored, so this brother killed him. So, with all that being said, if you do not know the story of Cain and Abel, basically, Adam, the first human, had two sons, two offspring, two thought forms, Cain and Abel. In the story, Cain, the older brother, Abel, the younger brother, were both providing offerings to the Lord their God to win his favor, basically, right? Abel was a shepherd, so he tended a flock of sheep, and he brought a lamb as a sacrifice. Now, Cain, the older brother, worked in the fields, plowing, planting seeds, actually trying to grow and nurture and actually experience the fruits of his labor, quite literally and figuratively, as this story tries to tell us, offered a basket of fruit, vegetables, grains, stuff that you would grow in a field, right? And God took favor upon Abel's offering. The important thing is, Cain got pissed off, right? And Cain harbors or represents a lot of the Scorpio energy, where you basically push them until they explode. And this was the breaking point. Cain basically didn't understand why, after working so hard, his offering was not taken as well or as favorably as Abel's, right? So this leads Cain to actually go and kill his brother. Because if I'm not going to get what I want, why should you get what you want?
That makes sense to me.
But not only that, the bigger point here is that this is basically like Scorpio energy, right? Being pushed until you explode, which of course can lead us to do things that we haven't thought about. So let's actually break down what this story is actually telling us. With Cain and Abel being the two first thought forms of Adam, right? Basically the first two thoughts, the sons, right? Basically what this is saying is that there are two predominant ideals in human nature, right? Is what the story is trying to portray, right? You have those who only care about for themselves, only work in the field, only work on what they want, and those who tend to others, right? Abel, the shepherd, tending to other people, tending to his flock, taking care of others rather than himself, right? With that being said, though, obviously one of these is actually much more important than the other, right? And while we do have to live in a society where people care for each other and are willing to help each other, if you are sacrificing your own intentions, your own motivations, the things that you have to do, then really what is the point? Because now you're serving something other than yourself, and that is not the point of life. The point of life is to experience, and while that is an experience, it's not what you want to consciously experience, right? Which is the whole problem with the story. Basically, the being that is claiming to be God is telling you that it is better for you to tend to others rather than tend to yourself, rather than to experience the fruits of your own labor. And that can be very detrimental to you as a spirit, right? Because you're no longer experiencing the things that you want to experience. And what happens when you're no longer experiencing the things that you want to experience? You get stuck in a hell loop because you're in a routine and pattern that you can't break. So this is basically telling us two things, right? One, which I just mentioned, that in this story, it is more important to care for others rather than yourself. While, yes, you do need to care for others and help them when you can, but your main mission, your main ideal, your main purpose is actually to consciously experience what you want to experience, which is what Cain was doing. However, they made it obviously seem like it was a lot harder and worse for your body than it actually is. And while it can be, it doesn't necessarily always have to be that way. Now, the second thing that this is trying to say is that this is actually telling us about thoughts and your progression as a spirit, right? Because if you're having two thoughts that are competing for your favor, right? Because you have to remember that your thoughts are offsprings of you, for the most part, not all the time, because, you can only think so many original thoughts, even though original thoughts are infinite, but we're in human bodies, so limited mind. The whole point of the story is you actually understanding that you gave birth to certain thought forms, right? And you have to decide which thought form you're going to favor. Understanding that one thought form may have to die in order for the other one to actually rise above and actually become something tangible, right? AKA experiencing the fruits of your labor. Having a thought, nurturing that thought and experience, and actually receiving the experience. There are multiple different ways of breaking down the story, and those are the two important ones. One is, obviously make sure you're consciously experiencing what you want, and the second is you're going to be put in a situation where you're going to have to choose what things are more important for you at that time. You might have to go through a certain death and transformation in order for you to actually experience what you consciously want to experience. Which brings into the whole Scorpio, transformation energy, as well as the Archangel Gabriel, the actual being who represents death and transformation. Now, that being said, at the end of the story, when the God says, where's your brother Abel? And Cain's like, am I my brother's keeper? No. No, you're not. You're not. That thought, that idea doesn't care about any other thought or idea other than itself. It wants to experience itself, which kind of touches into, being a ninth dimensional being, but that's not the point here. The other thing to keep in mind is that why was Cain marked, right? Very simple, because it was the thought that won. When you are the prevailing thought, the mark represents something physical. It represents you bringing this into reality, right? Bringing your thought, your experience that you want to experience into reality. And obviously it was said that Cain was going to have to walk the earth forever, marked so that no one would kill him, right? This can also mean a couple of things. One is that certain thoughts and concepts are ingrained into our society, and sometimes they shouldn't be, right? Like, who wants to have a murderer alive around forever, right? What exactly was the point with that one, God,
Checkmate! Shoot!
So that's what the mark represents. And it represents, one, the fact that certain thoughts and concepts are around that should be killed, yet no one's killing them for some reason, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole to dive down into. And the other is that the mark actually represents bringing it into physical reality, right? Actually experiencing that thought. So, with all that being said, this can actually give you a better breakdown of what the story's actually trying to tell you. And once you start doing this a couple of times, it makes actually reading the Bible and actually seeing, oh, this means this, not this. The way that you're, supposed to read things and intake information is thinking for yourself, of actually reading between the lines and understanding that everything presented to you, for the most part, is going to have truth laid into it, covered up by a bunch of lies. Which obviously is the whole point of this series, to give you the understanding that there's truth here somewhere, you just gotta know how to read it and extract the information. So, with that being said, that's pretty much it for this episode of Bible Study, where we're breaking down the Bible.
Well, I can never thank you enough for everything you've done for me.
You're welcome. So, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of that. Make sure you guys check out our Instagram and the Reels, the daily alignments, man. Giving you the understanding of everyday's energy every day on the daily. And if you guys like to request a reading of any kind, email us down below at readingsolarsystem.org. So yeah, until next time, fly high, y'all.